It was February 1st, 2020, and it had only been 5 days since Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash. And it had only been 5 days since the first case of the coronavirus was reported in California. That night, all I wanted to do was just get home. But instead, it took me down this long journey where I find myself wondering what my role is within the Asian American community. It was a Saturday night, and my friend and I were in downtown LA waiting for a train to go home. As the train arrived and the door slid open, we stepped into this train where we found ourselves amongst a diverse group of passengers. There were people of all ages, race, ethnicity, backgrounds, genders. We were just two Angelenos amongst other Angelenos. Then my friend noticed that there was a man who came on the train with us, and his body movement was pretty out of sorts and aggressive. He seemed agitated. My friend whispers to me, "Is he homeless?" I whispered back, "No, I think he's just drunk." That seemingly drunk man took his position and stood by the door that we all entered in from. And seated next to him was another man who had already been there. He was dressed in head to toe Lakers gear. It seemed that the two of them knew each other because they looked at each other, gave each other a smile, and nodded. As the doors closed and the train started to move, the seemingly drunk man, who I'll just call the man, started to get really loud. And he said, "Those Chinese, they're bringing in the fucking virus." I heard him, but I just dismissed him because I thought he was drunk. He continued, "They're dirty. The Chinese are dirty." In that moment, it didn't occur to me that I could be the target of his attack. Then my friend whispered to me, "I think he's talking about you." So I looked up, and I caught the eyes of the man who was wearing all Lakers gear. He looks at me and he smiles at me sheepishly, almost as if he's ashamed of what his friend was saying. Then I notice him tugging on his friend's shirt, trying to get him to stop, and that seemed to almost outrage the man even more. The man continued to rant. And then I started to notice that he started to gesture his arm towards me. And in that moment, I looked up to see if there were other Asians on the train, and I was the only one. So I knew in that moment that I was his target and that our Asian American community was now under attack. The man just ranted on and raged on, and he got more and more aggressive. I was scared. I felt trapped. I didn't know how I was going to escape this situation. He was so much bigger than me. So I decided that I was going to look for an ally on this train. And I looked around the train, trying to make eye contact with every single man on the train. And they all averted my eyes. And as I'm turning back around in my seat, a young African American woman catches my eyes and she gives me a smile, almost as if she's telling me that she sees me and she sees the situation. I was terrified because it started to intensify. It had been 10 minutes of him ranting, and it didn't look like he was going to stop. I was scared that maybe he was going to lunge at me or try to hurt me physically. So I pulled out my camera and I pressed record because I knew that if he hurt me, I needed evidence. I don't know if he actually saw me pull out my camera or that knew that I was recording him or even cared, but he ranted on and raged on. And then finally, the train stops and the doors open and he steps out. As the doors closed, I could feel the blood rushing back into my body, into my face. I could feel my lungs filling up with air again. I was breathing again. And as I sat there, feeling more safe, I started to contemplate and reflect back on the moments before. And I wondered to myself why I wasn't angry, why I didn't take it personally, but instead I had so much compassion for this person. Because here he was, also from a marginalized community. And probably like me, he was scared of the coronavirus and not really understanding what this virus was about. And then I started to think about my mother. And I thought, what if this happened to her? She doesn't speak English very well. And she's older. She's much more vulnerable than I. And I just wondered that if it was my mother, if he would have felt more emboldened and maybe hurt her physically. So in that moment, I knew that I had to do something about it. I knew that I had to bring awareness because here I am in one of the most diverse cities in the world, and I just got attacked and nobody came to my rescue. So as I'm trying to figure out what to do, my friend turns around and says, we need to post this right away on Facebook. So right then and there, we crafted a post and we posted it. And as I got home that night, I did some more research and found that Chinese people were being attacked all over the world. They were being excluded from public spaces. They were reading signs like, no Chinese allowed. They were being kicked out of restaurants and hotels. And I knew that this was bigger than what I just experienced. And I found that in France, they already had a campaign. In English, it's translated as #IamNotAvirus. And so as tired as I was that night, I decided to start a Twitter account. And by Sunday morning, I had 3 followers. And by Monday morning, I still had 3 followers. And by that afternoon, I still have 3 followers, but this time I have a message in my inbox. It was from NBC. I didn't believe that it was actually NBC because I didn't understand how they could find me if I only had 3 followers. But then the next day, there was another message, and this time it was from USA Today. And so before you know it, I was being interviewed by journalists from NBC, from USA Today, from local Fox News, and numerous other news outlets from all over the world. This went on for a whole month. And then it kind of died down. And then it happened. I received a message from CNN. They wanted to interview me. And so I did. And they interviewed me. And as I relished in the afterglow of that interview, my mom says to me, so that's it. Who else is there? You were already interviewed by CNN. And to her surprise and to my surprise, the following week, I received a message from one of Anderson Cooper's producer. He wanted to interview me live. And I said yes, as terrified as I was. And I was just, as he's interviewing me, I was just in awe of the moment because here he was, one of the most famous journalists, and he's interviewed everyone around the world, and he's covered the biggest stories, and he cared what was happening to me. He gave me this opportunity to share my story on his platform to bring more awareness. I'm still on that journey from February 1st. That moment for me clarified who I am as an American. It exposed racism to me in a way that I felt it viscerally. It wasn't just an idea outside of me. It also unveiled to me that I had been living a lie. That I thought that if I just got good grades, if I had degrees, if I had a good job, if I worked really hard, if I didn't speak up too loudly or too much and just kept smiling, that I can somehow sidestep racism. I was living the lie of what we know as being a model minority. I don't know where this journey is going to take me. Some people have called me an activist, and to be honest with you, I'm really uncomfortable with that label. And it's maybe because I never believed that my voice could make a difference, or that I could speak on behalf of anyone, or that anyone wanted to listen to me. But wherever this journey takes me, whatever label I end up with, whatever role I end up with, what I do know is that I do stand in solidarity with the Asian American community.
Every disease has ever came from China, homie. Everything comes from China. It's disgusting. They can be so smart and be like, oh yeah, I'll develop this, I'll develop that. But like, yeah, you can't even wipe your ass.
Disgusting words from one subway passenger in Los Angeles, and alarmingly part of a growing trend of racist, verbal, and physical attacks against Asian people in America because of the coronavirus. Welcome to Full Circle. I'm Anderson Cooper. That racist rant is certainly difficult to watch, but we think it's important to show you what some people are actually experiencing. Each day, we're reporting there are more cases of the coronavirus. As it currently stands, there are nearly 77,000 confirmed cases worldwide. Vast majority, more than 75,000 of those, are inside mainland China. By comparison, in the U.S., a tiny number, 34 people, have tested positive for the virus. There's still a lot of fear spreading, though, about this outbreak, and cases of racist and xenophobic attacks are sadly on the rise. My guest tonight, who was actually born and raised in Los Angeles and is a Thai American, not of Chinese descent, says she started recording this video while she was on the LA subway, and she was the only Asian American on the train. Tanny Jiraprapasuke joins me now. Tanny.